Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Lunch with Leaders by Junior Achievement. My name is Molly Edison and I am your host and technical support for our meeting today. We are so excited to have you all here with us and we are really looking forward to introducing our featured guest, Cedric Hudson, who is a senior apparel designer for adidas in basketball. We would love for all of you to eat lunch during this call, so please do feel free to grab some food and get ready to listen. I'm really excited to introduce our student moderator today. Our student moderator is Mia Kane, who is currently a junior at Lincoln High School here in Portland. She's also one of the top distance runners in the state of Oregon. Hey Mia, we'll see you soon. Our guest speaker today joining us is Cedric Hudson. Hi Cedric, thank you so much for being here. Now, folks, at this point, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Mia.
Hey, Molly. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. So today we have Indiana University alum, designer, and artist Cedric Hudson is joining us to discuss his background and work with design, merchandising, art, and retail, from being a radio host to designing and creating for fashion and interiors, including working for 4 different teams at Adidas in Portland, Oregon. Cedric has lots of valuable experience, so thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, no problem. Happy to be here. Really excited to get to talk, to the youth again. I've come by the actual building a couple years ago now, so it's always exciting to get to expose people to the world of design and what it can mean for your future as far as, what you want to get into as a career down the road or anything like that, So no, it's an honor and thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So why don't we start off by maybe if you want to share, how did you get started in your career?
Yeah, so I know we were just kind of touching base on that. But, growing up, I really didn't know much about design as a career. I didn't know that it was something that, you could do like full time. Obviously, the typical careers were always spoken to me in school. You got to realize I grew up when there was like no social media or anything like that. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade when the internet even like was a thing when it came out. It was like 97. And so we didn't really have the resources to like see and understand that those were opportunities. So, all this time goes by, I'm running track in high school. And that was my main focus was sports. I ended up becoming one of just like, our moderator here. I was one of the top long jumpers in the country and one of the top in the state of Virginia. So my focus was really around, getting to college to run track. And after my freshman year at Virginia Tech, I began to explore the opportunity of transferring to Indiana University for track and field. But one of my teammates, they're twins, Chris and Phil Padilla. One of them is a footwear designer at Adidas now, and the other is one of the lead apparel designers, outerwear designers at Columbia Sportswear. One day I saw them. This was maybe about a month before I was about to finish up my transfer to IU. And they told me, hey, we're industrial design students and we're going to be footwear designers. And I was like, hold on, guys. I don't know. What are you guys talking about? It really caught me off guard and it exposed me to that. And as I was transferring to IU, I decided to look into what they had around fashion design because I saw they didn't have industrial design. And so quickly I was like, this is what I want to do, because as a kid, I grew up, playing with Legos, Matchbox cars, model cars, drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, building Gundam Wing models and origami. So I was always doing like hands-on art and creative things, but, I never really, again, I didn't know that there was an outlet for that. And so when I got exposed, I was immediately hooked. And then my journey began, going to college and getting formally educated in fashion design and interning at some of these companies while I was still in school. And that all led to, an opportunity in the sportswear industry. There's a lot of other things that happened in between as far as what effort that took, a lot of late nights and things like that. But in a distilled storyline, that is how I got into my opportunity in this industry.
That's really cool to hear that you were able to take this passion that you had kind of your whole life and then turn it into this career that you're able to be so successful in. So, like, elaborating on that, would you want to share with us like what you do for current work?
Yeah, so right now I'm on the basketball design team. I lead from an apparel standpoint, the approach and aesthetic of what that apparel looks like. I joined the team in 2019. And so the product that I have begun working on will come out this coming fall. So anything prior to this fall season, I wasn't a part of. But this fall will be product that I help with. This piece I'm wearing is actually one of the pieces I designed that'll be coming out this fall. And so yeah, so it's a great opportunity. Obviously, basketball has a lot to do with the narrative of the cultural sport that we experience now, whether it's the music and the fashion and the style and all those things. So it's a really cool team to be on right now, and I have great teammates that allow it to be very collaborative and fun as well. So no, it's really cool.
Oh, that's also really cool. So, how before all of the quarantine and social distancing happened,
Yeah.
would you want to share with us what your day-to-day responsibilities were like and
Yeah,
what they
so
will return to be like?
for sure. Yeah. So I'll speak to what so right now we're working on spring 22. And if I was able to go to the office right now, it would be a lot of, obviously you have a lot of conversations with your counterparts, right? So in design, you have there's me in design, there's developers, they help talk to the factories to help get your pieces made that you design. And then you have material developers too that you speak to help figure out the materials for your items. So I will be having those conversations with them as well as my marketing team, making sure that I'm following, along with the brief, and that's what's presented to us as far as what we need that they feel like is missing in the market and things like that. So I'll be doing those conversations as well as, going to the material library and looking at materials, trying to find new things for the season, trying to look at new trims like zippers or piping, things like that. So my days will be filled with that. At Adidas, we have the Maker Lab. And the Maker Lab is a whole bunch of sewing machines, a whole bunch of just, random materials. So you can go in there and create whatever you'd like. And I've had ideas, to be honest, while I've been home. And I'm like, man, I really wish I could access the Maker Lab right now to play around with the laser cutting machine, or the no-sew bonding machine and just, look at new execution. So I can't do that. I have a couple sewing machines at my house, so I can do some, small things. But those are a lot of the basics. So a lot of the more technical performance and execution machines are at the office, so I'm not able to access those right now. So I mean, for the most part, that's the biggest thing that I'll be doing right now at the beginning of the design season. So it's a little different, obviously now that we're all quarantined and staying safe. But yeah, usually around this time of the season, and it'll fluctuate, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
as we start to move into different phases of the season, things will become more technical as we start to, finalize designs. And that means beginning to work on our technical packages and how you specify, collar height, so you specify certain pieces of the design from a pattern perspective. So it's pretty hands-on as well. So yeah.
No, that's really cool. And then you talk about things like the Maker Lab, which sounds like really an awesome place to work. So what are some things that you love about your work?
Well, to be honest, I think for me, it's definitely the creation process. I mean, that's the part that's the most fun, is getting really hands-on. I'm one of the designers that I like to be really hands-on from a pattern perspective. With what I mean is, obviously we have all this technology at our fingertips, all these computers, but I really like to always take it back to the roots and be really hands-on with the patterns. Manipulating patterns, looking at sleeve constructions, looking at new hem constructions, all those types of things, where I think you get to a real fresh idea and landing place when you approach the design that way. I'm always still going to be sketching and utilizing anything to help push the envelope, but definitely for me it's that, and also just the connection with my teammates and being able to talk to them. My personality, and anybody that knows me would say I'm pretty outgoing, and I really like to see what people think and talk to them. So now we have to do it digitally. So there's a lot of FaceTimes happening right now, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, anything that can allow us to communicate. But that's really the favorite part, it's just, and it's seeing something really kind of grow off the paper, seeing a design start where it starts and then becoming something real. That in turn makes the company money, right? So that's what it really comes down to. Yeah.
No, that's also just really cool that you were able to do that and find so many things you love under one career.
Yeah.
So
sure.
having one career, what are the other jobs that you've had either to prepare you or just like to get you where you are today?
Yeah. I mean, as you know, I would definitely say, being a track and field athlete,
Right.
from a sense of responsibility, from a sense of commitment, consistency, and overall just kind of like, we all call it having want to, you got to have that sense of urgency and that want to, you know what I mean? And I think that has attributed to my level of work that I've done as a professional designer with this company. I think that definitely prepared me in a major way from a mindset, knowing that my ability to absorb a lot of time as far as how much work I have to do and all of that. I would say track and field really prepared me. And then, the internships and, I interned for the Marine Corps as a supply logistics intern when I was like a senior in high school and a freshman in college. So things like that. And I interned at Reebok while I was in school as well, which really changed the game for me because it exposed me to the corporate world for the first time. I was my first time getting exposed to, the day-to-day, like as you asked, what that looks like, our responsibilities, learning the roles and responsibilities of my counterparts in marketing or development. And, all those things really prepared me, for what I do today. And then, you're always learning, you're always learning new things and you're always learning, how to do things maybe more efficiently or better. So yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like ongoing, but definitely I would say those things definitely help prepare me for what I do now.
Yeah, wow. So, I mean, having always pretty much had an idea of what you were going to do or like having like an idea of what you're passionate about, have there been any twists and turns in your career path?
Uh, I mean, kind of. I think once I graduated, and I began my internship with Adidas, it's been pretty like straightforward in the sense of I just knew what I wanted to do, the type of product I wanted to work on. I mean, there was twists and turns as far as different teams I worked on, uh, which got me different types and different levels of experience in each situation, which I'm very grateful for because I think it's made me very well-rounded. And I look at things from a lot of different vantage points. Um, but yeah, for the most part, it's been pretty like straightforward. Once I identified that I wanted to be an apparel designer.
That's great. So, I mean, you've talked about that you design the piece that you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
So that just made me wonder, what is your favorite project that you've worked on?
Well, I have a couple. Well, it's interesting because when I was in my first full-time role, I was working in our sports license division where I had the opportunity to design quite a few things from a team perspective. So what I mean is I helped redesign the entire CFL, the Canadian Football League. So if you were to Google that and look up Canadian Football League, all those uniforms that the teams are wearing current day, I helped design all of those uniforms along with some of my coworkers at the time. Miami of Ohio, I designed their current football uniform system that they wear. So those are things that I'm really excited about because, it's still being worn. There was this dugout collection that I did that was for baseball, but a lot of the football teams ended up really liking it. And if you remember on Netflix, there's a show called Last Chance U. And a lot of the product that's worn in that Netflix show is stuff that I designed, which is really awesome. I had one of my jackets from Spring 18 get featured in GQ as one of the top windbreakers of the season from a style perspective, which is really tight. And it was next to, garments like Bally and John Elliott. And, their price points are higher. So to see that my jacket stood up at a more commercial, democratic price point was really awesome as well. And then I had some golf product that came out I'm sure there's some golfers, maybe on this call, we'll see. But I did some golf product that came out back in December. That was an injection of, the idea that a lot of golf clubs, they expect you to dress a certain way. And I think that can deter certain individuals from feeling like they're welcome to wear and express themselves from a style standpoint. Even if they wear the appropriate garments, they may want to wear something that leans a little bit more in this direction. And so I was able to address that with that collection. It did really well, sold through really well, got a lot of media attention that was earned and not paid for, which is really awesome. Sold by companies over in the UK, Golf Poser, they sold it, and out in Venice as well. So yeah, just a couple of them. Those are some items and those projects that I'm really proud of. But there's some projects on the way with Adidas basketball that I'm very proud of as well. And you guys will just have to wait and see, when those come out. If you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure to do that, because I'll be posting those things and sharing some of that when they come. So, but yeah, for sure. There's a few things I'm proud of, and it took a lot. There's always, like, again, there's the development team, there's merchandising, there's C2C that help to sell in product. It's so much. It's a big engine, and I'm a big but yet small part of that. So there's a lot of people that help to make that vision come true. And so they deserve a lot of the love as well.
Yeah, having watched Last Chance U myself, I guess I've definitely seen your work a bunch of times. That's really cool that you were able to do that and get your work out to all these different places and all around the world as well.
For sure.
So having been so successful, where do you find inspiration for your art and design?
Hopefully it doesn't sound cheesy, but I love architecture. I look at architecture all the time. I look at, I do furniture design as well, as a hobby, but I am chipping away at creating an aesthetic and an approach from a furniture standpoint. But definitely a lot of architecture. Music is a big inspiration for me in a lot of different ways. Like, I always try to think about the things that I design in context, meaning, what does it really look like when people wear the product outside of the walls that we design them in, because this product is going to be worn on people in real life. And, what do they do and how they wear it, and how are they when they're hanging out with their homies, and like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Because there's a real narrative that goes along with this product. And I think that's important to make sure that people understand, like, it's gotta work within that when it gets into the real world. So definitely a lot of, like, old school music videos, new stuff, like just the energy, and how our clothes are part of that, and what does it look like in that space. I tend to think about things in that way as well. But yeah, definitely for me, a lot of architecture magazines, a lot of, like, I look at Gray magazine a lot, which is about the Pacific Northwest and architecture and furniture design in our area. So I look at them a lot, just because it's local and they're just such a lot of good talent. But yeah, definitely it's like my go-to, just because it helps me look at things differently. Mix of materials, proportions, shapes and forms. So yeah.
So once you get this inspiration and you kind of like have a vision in your head, based on that, how does the creative process kind of advance?
Well, I mean, a lot of times it starts with, like, looking at materials, trying to understand, like, what material do I want to use? Is it a woven? Is it a knit? Is it a combination of the two? Is it bonded? Like, there's so many opportunities, but it's like just figuring out what's right for the product. I like to do a lot of styling shoots to understand shape and fit and form, to inform, like, how I want to approach, like, looks. But it's very fluid, because in our world, in our industry, there's a lot of things that come into play, what the account needs are, what the markets are seeing, the people that are experts in, like, their market, whether it's our Asia Pacific team, our North America team. So there's a lot of different things that come in to affect, the end result, but that's usually how I start.
That's really cool that you're able to kind of turn these visions into reality that, reach people all around the world.
For sure.
So we've talked a little bit about when you were younger, how, like, you kind of always knew that you wanted to design, or just like, and then changing colleges and then having track and field. But when you were younger, is this what you imagined yourself doing?
No, I had really had no idea. Even when I was applying for colleges, I thought I was going to do computer science, which is really odd because it's really hard and it's not at all how my brain works. But I learned that really quick after taking a couple classes at Virginia Tech my freshman year. Um, it was all bad. I remember getting like a really low score on one of my first exams. And if you're not in college yet, you don't know this, but like you can usually drop like a class, like if it's not working out and you still have enough credits to like you're good. So I didn't do well on that, and I was like, okay, I think I need to relook at it. But yeah, I really had no idea. I almost went to UVA for computer science. I got accepted to Morehouse for computer science, and I really didn't know, growing up. I mean, I just grew up doing the things I liked. I skateboarded all the time. I drew and did all these things all the time, and that's really all I knew. I didn't know what else. My dad was a Marine, and my mom owned her own business, and I knew I didn't want to go to the Marine Corps for a lot of different reasons, and so a lot of it was faith, and a lot of it was just, I think, just being very present and understanding like what was going on around me to see that there's an opportunity to go the design route. I think was a big thing.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we're kind of running out of time here, but I got two more questions. So, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I feel like had a lot of good advice over the years. I think I think for me, it's a few things. It's really like, I think, especially for you guys are coming up in the age where there's a lot of social media and a lot of technology. Like Instagram didn't come around until, like I graduated from college in 2012. And so Instagram was like a year old at the time. Um, and so I would say there's a lot of detractors, and I think there's a lot of influences out there that weren't there when I was coming up. And I would say it's just really being true to who you are. And that's a real thing. I think it's really being who you are and being confident in who you are. And if you're into, you know, making macaroni clothes, make macaroni clothes, man. Be the best at it. You know what I mean? Like, because there's people that have carved out lanes for themselves because they've been true to who they are and they've gone for what they believe in. And they've been able to become the best at, and if maybe the only person that does what they do because they believed in their vision. So I feel like if you have something that you're passionate about and you have a vision, believe in that vision and go for it, and don't let anybody really try to detract you from that vision that you have. Um, because it's unique to you and you should believe in that. That would be a big piece of advice that I would give to people coming up right now, to the kids. It's like, this is that, it's really important. And also just have fun with what you're doing. Like, you gotta find that place and space that it becomes, it's just what you love to do. No amount of money is going to help, with that. If you're not happy with what you're doing, you're going to have a hard time. So that would be another thing as well.
Thank you. That's definitely very valuable advice growing up in this day and age
Mm-hmm.
where social media definitely has a lot of influence over young kids. So my last question is there something that you wish you could tell yourself when you were younger?
Take my time. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's always like this, and again, it comes from the comparisons. You often like comparing yourself to your peers or what you see on the internet and all those other things. I would say take your time, learn your craft, whatever it is, whether it's design or being a veterinarian or working for the wildlife, whatever it is. Like, if again, it's like, but just take your time, learn, don't rush yourself, uh, yeah, and that's the biggest thing I wish that I had known coming up, is just to, like, each step of that process, just like take your time and learn what you need, and in all aspects, as everybody in the group chat, as you start to learn about finances, as you start to learn about, um, you know, uh, financial literacy and all these other things, like, make sure that you take your time, um, and get yourself in a position to be, comfortable, and successful, same thing with college and doing your work there. It's just like, you got one job, man. Just do your work and have a good time. Like, do your homework, go to class, have a good time. Because things change. The real world is a real place. When your parents are talking about, we got bills and this and it's real, man. Like, it's a real thing. And, being able to be in a position to handle those things and be comfortable in your world, I think is important. And I feel very grateful that I was able to put myself in that position. And it was because I had people giving me that type of advice. Um, and so, do the work now, take your time. So life is easy for you later on. Um, I think is super important. It's something to not be taken lightly.
Well, thank you so much. And that's definitely good advice, not just to give yourself, but for all of us to take away as well. So we're concluded with my questions for today. Thank you so much. So I'll turn it over to Molly to ask your guys' questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mia. We are going to go ahead and get started with the Q&A portion. Thank you for talking with us so far, Cedric. So to anyone that is watching and tuning in, if you have a question that you would like to ask Cedric, please go ahead and type it in the chat box of Zoom, and then I will ask those questions to Cedric. I know we have a lot that have already come in, so we'll get started with some of those. And then if you have any other questions, please feel free to type them in that chat box. So Cedric, starting out with one of the first questions that we got from Minda.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone that wants to go into design, but doesn't feel like they're good at drawing or sketching or being an artist?
I would say practice. If you have a passion for it, if it's something that you think you'd want to do, just practice. Just practice, do the research. Some of the best designers can't draw at all, not that well at least. There's some designers that just can't, and they express their ideas in other ways, So don't let that hold you back. Like if it's something that you're passionate about, there's the resources there, especially nowadays, again, with technology to learn. And it all comes from practice. The only difference between you and anybody else that's better at drawing right now is they've probably just been drawing longer. I know people that came up, they've been drawing since they were 6, 7, 8, 9, just drawing things just all the time. And so, yeah, if you start now when you're, 12, 13, 14, 15, it's going to be different because you haven't had as much time in practice. So just take the time to practice, and you'll be fine. If you have a passion for it, you'll keep trying, and you'll get there. So.
Yeah, that's great. And along those same lines, Kim had a question for you. What is the single most important thing that you think a teenager can do to prepare for their future?
I mean, it's kind of a couple things that I've touched on, but I think it's definitely just what I would say is like kind of take a look at what you're doing maybe for fun now. Sure, maybe it's video games, sure, maybe it's sports, maybe it's maybe there's a board game that you like. I mean, there's so many things. Like, for instance, like I have some friends that work for Mattel. I have some friends that design, water guns. I have friends that design action figures, and maybe they like. So it's just like you'd be surprised how many opportunities there are out there. And so it's really just taking a look at, what you like to do. And I think it's following that passion. And sometimes it takes longer for other people to figure out what that passion is. But I would say it's really taking a really hard, long look at what makes you happy, what gets you excited, what makes you want to get up early and stay up all night and work on those little things. Like that might be your passion, because you might get lost in it. You lose track of time. And that's a quick indicator that you might be working on your passion. And so I would say that, as well as, again, just working hard, taking your time, and doing the work, and reading whatever it is to help, because you'll find those opportunities or those ideas or things that you might like to try through books that you read and things that you learn from even your peers. So definitely talking to each other and seeing what everybody else is into as well makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Another student named Fong had a question. What are some tips that you have for networking and connecting with other people?
I would say, just being able to send like proper emails, being really respectful when you first like approach someone with a question. Try not to like necessarily ask for anything. when you first meet somebody, obviously I've had people when I first meet them, they ask for free stuff, and it's like, okay, is there any way else I can help you, or anything like that? Um, but I would say that, just be honest, show your passion, show why you're reaching out, show, what it is that you're hoping to learn, from the interaction. And people will see that. I see it, people hit me up and they're like, boom, 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 I just this, and this, and it makes a difference. And I see that they're really serious about, what they're asking about and why they want to learn or why they're reaching out in the first place. So I'll definitely say that for sure.
Yeah, and along those same lines, the student Rachel had a question. Could you tell us about a mentor that you have had or someone in your life that has inspired you the most?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously there's my mom and my dad. My dad being a Marine, like I learned a lot from the level of commitment that he had. My mom, a lot of my artistic ability comes from my mom. My great grandmother was a seamstress. She made dresses for all the women in the neighborhood, and my granddad on my mom's side, he was a welder for Modern Welding for like 33 years. Um, so definitely, I think a lot of that, um, came from her side of things. But yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. A student, Lauren, had a question. How do you figure out what kind of fabrics you're going to use in your designs?
It's a great question. It's a lot of it is trial and error. So in that maker lab, maybe you get some yardage of material and you sew it up in a basic silhouette just to see what it drapes like, how it looks on the body. And so over time, you start to learn what fabrics work best for what. Um, and when you get that basis, that really starts to help you understand what you want to use or how you ideate even before you get to the fabrics. So a lot of that, it just takes time. And understanding materials and what those compositions are and how they react differently. So yeah, I would say that would be how I approach materials.
Definitely. Our student tuning in named Milo had a question. What medium do you use for your sketches and designs?
I usually sketch in Photoshop. I know there's a lot of different things. I know there's like what's it called? Procreate. There's that. I use like the Wacom tablets, but I've been sketching on my iPad while I've been home, which has been really cool because it allows me to be more mobile. I don't feel like I'm stuck to like having to sit, at the desk or the table or where I can like sit wherever I like. I can sketch outside when it's not doing the Portland thing and raining. So but mostly digitally. I usually sketch in Photoshop. I just got used to it, and it works really well. And but sometimes I'll sketch like with vellum paper as well because I can like layer it and like look at different versions and iterations. So, but mostly digital sketching, I'll do that.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Our students, DK and Angel, both of them had the same question that they wrote in. Have you gotten to meet any famous people in your job?
Yeah. Fortunately, with adidas, or in our industry in general, you get to come across a lot of, uh, famous individuals. I mean, definitely, gotten to meet a couple athletes from a basketball perspective, whether that's, Dame or James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. Gotten to meet those guys a few times. We have our senior designer on our team, Catherine Chen. She works on all the signature apparel products, so she has constant touch bases with them all the time. And I've more so have touch bases with our like fashion lifestyle collaboration partners. And those are people that I talk to very often. So definitely that for sure. It happens a lot because of just different events we'll go to whenever we can do that again. um, you know, but yeah, you get to meet some people. Definitely a perk of the job. But you have to remember, they are famous, but when we meet them, it's about doing our job. And you got to kind of like you respect them for who they are, and but at the same time, just make sure that you get the job done. Get the work done. And it's not really about being a fan in that moment. You got to really focus in and do your part.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Our student named Elizabeth had a question. What are some of the biggest sacrifices that you've had to make for your job?
Uh, Time. time, with friends or time with my family. My mom and dad live on the East Coast. So, I don't get to see them a lot. I see them like once or twice a year for the, Christmas or, whatever. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Other than that, it's like, this is what I want to do. So I don't have to sacrifice too much, but the biggest thing is just time. This type of work just takes a lot of time.
Definitely. We had a couple of students ask the same question, but RGSDA, who's a student tuning in, was wondering, do you wear Adidas every day? And are there other brands that you like to wear?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's Adidas product that I wear, but there's other like designers that I wear, other brands or other like, things that I'm into. Um, so yeah, it's Adidas, but I mix in like other brands that aren't Adidas as well.
For sure. A student, Lele, had a question for you. What does the process for designing like a really hype shoe look like?
I mean, it just depends. I mean, that's a big question because it's like there's a lot that goes into dealing with, maybe there's a collaborator attached to it. Maybe there's a reasoning. Maybe it's a moment in time. Obviously there's been a lot of like Mother's Day things or Halloween or Christmas Day. Like, there's a lot of those. It could be moment based. So it really depends, because all of that information will influence the shoe model, the materials, the color, all those things. So yeah, it's just there's a lot of moving parts that go into that for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Arnav had a question. How do you feel like your own artistic vision can come out in your designs?
It's funny, like that's a good question because it's one of those things I don't really think about. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of do the work, and my aesthetic kind of flows. I mean, obviously we're designing for our key consumer, which is probably the age of everybody that's mostly on this call. So the consumer comes into that equation a lot. But yeah, a lot of it is just, just what I see as, new and fresh, what I think will be impactful, cut through the noise of all the other product that's already out in the world. So I think there's that as well.
Great, yeah, thank you. And the last question that we'll ask here in this Q&A, we've gotten it from a couple students, but Sherry on our Facebook Live actually asked, does Adidas have any internships, and what was your process like of getting an internship, and how would you recommend a student goes about that?
Yeah, we have interns every summer, but also there's internships that fall during the fall. So we have like our Adidas Group's job board. And so you can go on there and you can look at, like if you go to Adidas and go like, I think it's like all the way at the bottom, there's a little small career tab. And you can go there. Usually it's about, I would say like for the summer, I think usually around December or January, prior to that summer, they start to accept applications and then they'll interview people and then they'll start to give out those invites, closer to like summertime. But yeah, I mean, that's how I got in. Like, I didn't know anybody. I applied through the website, got a call from HR, from recruiting, and that was my process, So, definitely, go and look on the website. And I think you can sign up for notifications too, when those things are posted. So definitely, it's the internship that'll be your foot in the door, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Cedric. We definitely loved to hear from you. So in closing, we would like to announce the winner of the raffle drawing that we had for that Adidas gift card. So the raffle winner today is Hannah Gitt. I know you're not sharing your video now, Hannah, but thank you so much for joining with us, Hannah, and being on this call. We were excited to have you here with us today. Now, if I could turn it back over to Mia for some closing comments.
Perfect. Thank you, Molly. And also thank you, Cedric, for your answers to those questions. And I guess also thank you all so much for attending Junior Achievements Lunch with Leaders featuring Cedric Hudson. Cedric, it was so great to hear your story. I know that I learned a lot, and I would guess that everybody listening did as well. So just to say thank you, could everybody listening please join me with American Sign Language round of applause. You just go like this. You, Cedric.
I didn't know I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
I'm definitely about
lots
to use that on my calls now. Going like, guys, this is it.
Yeah, lots to learn over quarantine. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in, and we are so glad to have you guys. So just tune in next week, same time, same place, for another edition of Lunch with Leaders. And Cedric, would you like to say goodbye to our listeners and maybe final last words?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. It's really great. I hope everybody, I know a lot of you guys are, going to school from home now and, having to keep up with your work, a lot of like video, learning with your teachers and, you know, uh, just enjoy it. I mean, it's a different time and it may be a little, new and maybe it's difficult in some ways, but, you know, just do your thing, have a good time with learning the way that you are right now from home and, and help, your teachers are spending a lot of time I'm sure to prepare their tasks for you each day from a virtual standpoint and, do your part to like help them out and follow up, do your work and be attentive on the calls and, and just make sure that you know, that you're present. And I know it can be difficult and not being able to be at school anymore for now. But I would say just enjoy it, stay confident, and I think we're all gonna get stronger from all of this, and we're all gonna come out. I learned something new today, so I think that would be what I would say to everyone as they get back to doing their thing.
All right, well, thank you so much, Cedric. Thank you for those words as well. Thank you for your time today. This has been Lunch with Leaders by Junior Achievement, our virtual career speaker series. And to all the folks attending, if you haven't signed up yet, do go register for next week's event, which will feature Tyler Lucy, who is a Portland Thorns forward for their football team. So that would be really exciting to tune in as well. You can learn more about this event and others on our website at jaorswwa.org. But thank you all so much for tuning in today. It was great to have you all here with us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. So thank you all. Bye-bye.
And so I would say that, as well as, again, just working hard, taking your time, and doing the work, and reading whatever it is to help, because you'll find those opportunities or those ideas or things that you might like to try through books that you read and things that you learn from even your peers. So definitely, talking to each other and seeing what everybody else is into as well makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Another student named Fong had a question. What are some tips that you have for networking and connecting with other people?
I would say, just being able to send like proper emails, being really respectful when you first like approach someone with a question. Try not to like necessarily ask for anything, when you first meet somebody. Obviously, I've had people when I first meet them, they ask for free stuff, and it's like, okay, is there any way else I can help you, or anything like that? Um, but I would say that, just be honest, show your passion, show why you're reaching out, show, what it is that you're hoping to learn, from the interaction. And people will see that. I see it, people hit me up and they're like, boom, 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 I just this, and this. And, it makes a difference. And I see that they're really serious about, what they're asking about and why they want to learn or why they're reaching out in the first place. So I'll definitely say that for sure.
Yeah, and along those same lines, the student Rachel had a question. Could you tell us about a mentor that you have had or someone in your life that has inspired you the most?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously there's my mom and my dad. My dad being a Marine, like I learned a lot from the level of commitment that he had. My mom, a lot of my artistic ability comes from my mom. My great grandmother was a seamstress. She made dresses for all the women in the neighborhood. And my granddad, on my mom's side, he was a welder for Modern Welding for like 33 years. Um, so, definitely, I think a lot of that, um, came from her side of things. But but yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. A student, Lauren, had a question. How do you figure out what kind of fabrics you're going to use in your designs?
It's a great question. It's a lot of it is trial and error. So in that maker lab, maybe you get some yardage of material and you sew it up in a basic silhouette just to see what it drapes like, how it looks on the body. And so over time, you start to learn what fabrics work best for what. Um, and when you get that basis, that really starts to help you understand what you want to use or how you ideate even before you get to the fabrics. So a lot of that, it just takes time. And understanding materials and